What's up, guys? If you're following along in this series, this is our next installment. We're going to be talking about guard retention. So before we talk about guard retention, you guys might be wondering what that term even means. We're going to explain what a guard is, right? So you might have heard this term if you've been following jiu-jitsu casually, you're trying to figure out if you might want to do it. A guard is any time that I have a part of my opponent's body between my legs. That's all it is. So there's many different guards, and guards are played on bottom, right? This is what makes jiu-jitsu jiu-jitsu. We have wrestling and we have jiu-jitsu. They're both grappling, just like boxing and Muay Thai are both striking, but they're different, right? So with jiu-jitsu, we can be on our back and we can still be offensive because we learn to grapple with our legs. And our opponent is on top, so he has to use his legs to keep himself upright, right? So now we're able to use 4 limbs against 2 effectively, right? So that's what a guard is. So a guard could be any number of things. There's many different ones. This one is full guard. This one is going to be one that you're probably going to learn very early on in your jiu-jitsu journey. I have the ability to move him around. He doesn't have the ability to pin me because he's not past my legs, like we talked about in the last instruction where it was all upper body or behind me, right? This is able to control him in some way and manage distance. You'll see in UFC, guys get into closed guard and they extend so the guy can't hit them as hard because it's further away now, or they'll pull them in and close the distance to make sure they can't hit them, right, effectively, because they can't pull back and actually get strong blows to the face or body. There's also half guard. This is where I just have one leg between my legs, right? This is also super common in jiu-jitsu and MMA. This is something that you're going to learn very quickly. You're going to be in a half guard. This keeps them away. I use my arms and my legs to keep my legs between me and my opponent. So anytime we have a guard, it's my legs between my opponent and I. And that's what keeps him from pinning me and allows me to manage distance and potentially submit or sweep my opponent from bottom, right? So there's also guards like butterfly guard. Butterfly guard, we don't have any closed wedges around the body, but my legs still control him and keep him between, keep us separated and manage distance. So butterfly is great for elevations. We can pick people up and do really cool sweeps where we take them over, and we do all kinds of inverted things like that. That's just another one that might be a little bit more advanced. There's also things like open guard, where if Adam is standing up and I'm just playing here, we're keeping him between our legs, he tries to run to the side, I keep my legs between him and I, and we can start inverting and going into leg locks and all kinds of different things, right? So that's another type of guard. There's so many guards, and there's so many different ones that people will, we can really go narrow or we can go broad with guards. I don't want to talk about every guard here, but I do want to talk about some main guard concepts. So a guard is always going to depend on your frames. Your frames are limbs that you extend slightly to keep people off of you and keep people off of your center mass, right? In all of those positions that you saw in the previous video, we talked about how they were pinning our body by taking all the inside real estate. We're keeping the inside real estate with a guard, right? We're making sure that we're controlling their body and managing distance. When he's on a pin, he's taking all the distance and space away. That's what he wants. So I want, with a guard, is to keep him away and keep him at distance. And we do that through frames and connection, right? So let's just take half guard, for example. I'll go into half guard on my non-dominant side here, if it looks goofy. But I have a knee shield. This keeps him away, and I can move his body. And if Adam tries to come and crush me up at the top, this is bad, but I'm going to keep my hands between him and I, right? This keeps even better distance management, right? So we're always managing distance with our frames in some way. We always want to make sure our head is not controlled. We always want to make sure our upper body and our shoulders are not controlled. And we do that through using our legs. I could put it inside for a butterfly half guard. I could do just a regular half guard. I could do a high knee shield half guard. All of these things are different, but they're all just different ways to make sure that I'm managing space between Adam and I, right? So that's what a guard is. And now I want to talk about what will probably be your first guard. So I'm going to suggest that you guys work on half guard first. And there's a few reasons for this. A lot of times people are going to say that you should work on full guard first. And a lot of gyms you go to will probably try to teach you full guard first. But in a full guard, I have all of the offense as the bottom guy, and he has none. So people will try very hard to not be put in a full guard. So if I put Adam in a full guard, he really needs to stand up and get out of this position. There's things people will try to do to submit you. They're very low percentage and I pretty much have all the offense and he has none. So people will try very, very hard to not be put in a full guard. They've been getting put in one since day one, right? Because everybody tries to work on it. So if I try to put him in one, it can be very difficult. I try to put my legs around and he just pushes them away or backs out, and it can be very hard for me to even work on this guard, right? Additionally, it doesn't have the same breadth of ability to develop your game as a half guard would, right? So with a half guard, it's very easy for me to get into a half guard. And a lot of times people want to pass you in a half guard. And passing just means they're getting past my guard, passing, right? They're getting past my legs. And we talked about a guard is where you're using your legs to keep your opponent away from you and create connection. So if I'm getting into a roll here and Adam tries to pass, a lot of times I can get into a half guard very easily. It's just my legs around one of his legs. This is a very, very low barrier to entry. Very easy for me to get to this position to start working on it. Additionally, a half guard is very applicable to MMA. You can start sweeping, you can wrestle, you can learn to wrestle, you can learn to sweep, you can learn to do leg locks. People will talk about how you can do leg locks from closed guard, but those are a little bit more predictable because they're all outside entries. With a half guard, I can throw my legs to the outside and start going into outside heel hooks like this. I could actually throw it through to inside heel hooks. We can learn a lot of different ones. We can also come up from half guard and start wrestling. You'll start getting your foundations in wrestling from a fairly safe position because we're low to the ground, right? So Adam pushes into me, I limp arm out, I take his back. This is classic wrestling stuff. This is very applicable to self-defense and MMA. A lot of times in street fights, if you ever watch videos, people end up in a position like this naturally, where there's just one leg. The guy's like desperately holding on. Maybe he lost the fight on the feet, and he's down here, and he's just holding on to this leg. This is a half guard. So if you learn how to effectively fight from here, this is going to be very beneficial for you in your jiu-jitsu journey, especially because it integrates really well with all the other guards. So I'm going to suggest that for your first guard, you're going to want to look to start to learn half guard, because you can start to learn butterfly in a half guard, right? You can start to take your, if you have an opportunity, you can take your leg out and go to close guard from here. You could also just sit back up and start wrestling or disengage completely. It doesn't keep you pinned in the position like a close guard would. So I'm going to suggest that if you guys want to start playing guard, it's going to be very beneficial for you to start with half guard. And one other reason that half guard is really good is that a lot of our pin escapes are going to lead us right into a half guard, right? So like we talked about in the last video, we are in a mount situation, very bad position for me. What I always want to do is gain the inside real estate, right? So I get my elbow inside of his knee, I bring a cross hip post across his hips, and then I start bringing my leg flat, I catch his ankle, and I put him here, and now I push this leg through my lock, and I turn into him. This is a half guard. I have one leg between both of my legs. This is a half guard. I turn in, I'm back into a half guard. So as a beginner, you're going to be working pin escapes a lot. And that's what you'll reliably be able to do in live rolls, because everybody will take those positions on you. You can always practice them, and you're going to get a lot of looks at half guard because a lot of the escapes go into a half guard. So we're going to get into offense in some of the next installments of the video. If you guys like half guard, if you're interested, you can check out more in detail. I think we have a couple techniques on the mini instructional we dropped as well. Go ahead and check that out. It's free if you want to start getting into half guard. And now we're going to start getting into some offense.